The next couple of these are what are called reversible figures, meaning that if you look at the center picture, your brain can see two things, either the face of a woman that's looking out at you guys, or the jazz musician. Come on in, profile there. However, if you show people the picture on the right first, if they see the woman first, and then you show them the one in the middle, they will tend to have trouble seeing the jazz musician. So they built up an expectation that I'm looking at a woman, and they continue to see the woman. Alternately, if you show them the man first and then the one in the middle, they tend to continue to see the man. They have more trouble seeing the woman. So whatever expectation we build up will affect perception. Another example here, you can see the man's face on the left, the woman's body on the right. Right in the middle is the ambiguous one. But again, if you start out with the woman, those folks tend to continue to see the woman. Start out with the man, you'll see the man. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an expectation. On the next slide, you're going to see a duck's head. So we'll see if you see the duck. Everybody see the duck? Yep. Okay, did you also see the rabbit? Okay, so this is one of those heads that can go in each direction. So you can either choose whether it's the bill of the duck or it's the ears of the rabbit. But again, in research studies, if you tell people you're about to see a rabbit, they see the rabbit first and then the duck afterwards. If you tell them you're going to see a duck, they see the duck first. So do you guys see a face here? How about a word?
Yeah.
And once again, if I had told you you're about to look at a word, you would immediately see the word. If I said you're about to look at a face, you would see the face. Anyone recognize this celebrity? Okay, so we have Britney Spears. We're going to take these pictures and we're just going to turn them upside down. And all of a sudden, she seems quite scary there on the left. The picture on the right here is the same one as the one on the left. The reason, though, we don't see this one as bizarre, and it's just as bizarre, is that the facial features, even though they're upside down, we are used to seeing facial features in an upright position. So we tend not to be as disturbed by that image on the right, even though her eyes and mouth are upside down. But when we flip it over, we're quite disturbed, because obviously the facial features don't fit the face. So one is going to be more. And this is another one. This is Obama here. It should flip around in a second. Same idea here. The picture on the left this time is the one that's just as distorted, upside down features, and then of course it looks worse to us this way. So it's an illusion called the Margaret Thatcher illusion. We're showing it here again as well, because the original one used her picture, but you can do it with any image. Okay, this one I want you guys just to take a minute to scan this photo, and I'm going to ask you some questions about it. What did you guys see in the photo? Okay, hotel.
The sexy lady up there.
Okay, cafeteria. Barbershop. Okay, you said the lady.
A brothel, it looks like to me. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like a sculpture on the side of the building.
Okay, a sculpture on the side of a building. Okay, it's actually a photograph, a very unfortunate photograph. It's called The Moment Before Death. So a woman had jumped off a building, and someone had captured the image of her body falling.
Oh my God.
And she's right in the center of the picture. These are her legs spread apart, and then she's got like one arm out, and her dress is kind of blowing up in the air. The reason why a lot of times either we don't see her at all, or we attach her to the building, we think she's somehow part of a sign or a sculpture, is that we're not really used to seeing a body, going horizontally through the air. We have no expectation for that, so we tend to misinterpret that information. Once you see her and you've identified her and know what's going on, then of course she becomes the center of the picture and your brain focuses on that. Okay, so go ahead and read the first list for me. First line. Okay, we're back in kindergarten, right? How about the second line? 10, 11, 12. Okay. So if you look at the B, you look at the 13, the eye is getting the same image. It looks the same to the eye, and yet we don't get confused. We don't go A and then pause and go, gosh, is that a B or is that a 13? The brain uses the context. The context tells us what to expect. We're expecting a letter, it looks like a letter. We're expecting a number, it looks like a number. So we have to do that all the time on a daily basis. If you're interpreting someone's handwriting, my phone number is area code. The is and the 1 and the 5 and the phone number, same image to the eye. The eye sees the same thing, but your brain isn't attuning just to what the eye sees. It's also interpreting based on the rest of the information that's out there. Okay, is this Al Gore and Bill Clinton? So this is a little bit of a dated example for some of you, but most of us who know who these two people are have no trouble saying, yeah, that's a picture of the two men. But it turns out both of them are Clinton's face. But again, the brain will get a little bit fooled by using the context. It uses the hairstyle, it uses where he's positioned, what he's wearing, and all that goes into our perception as well. And so we tend to see them as being two distinctly different people that look like Al Gore and Bill Clinton. Okay, so that's just to give you a background of how the visual system works. Now we can start looking more at some of these illusions. Optical illusions work at some point between that second and third stage there. So some optical illusions trick the mechanics of the eye, some of them fool our interpretations, and then some are a combination of both. So the optical illusions kind of fall into two categories. We'll look at the physiological ones that deal more with the apparatus of the eye, and then the cognitive ones that deal with our interpretation. So physiological illusions typically involve unusual or excessive stimulation of brightness, color, movement, or contrast. So we're going to do one called an after image. We're all going to see Jesus. Even if you're not religious, that's okay. You're still going to see him today. This one, unfortunately, you can't do it at distance. We're going to have to do it up close. So I'm going to pass out this. And you guys are welcome to keep this. We just send some of these down here. You might need a little bit of light for this today. It's in the dark.
Is that enough, Amy?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so pass those around. So we're going to wait for everybody to get theirs, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do. Uh-oh, you guys didn't get yours yet. Stats going on. Okay, so this is the upright orientation of the picture. We're going to be looking at it in this direction. What we're all going to do is I'll time us, and for about 30 seconds, you're just going to stare at those 4 dots in the middle. And then when we're done with the 30 seconds, you're going to close your eyes and tilt your head back and wait a second or two, and Jesus will appear. Okay? So everybody get ready to stare at the dots. Okay, ready? Go. And it's okay if you blink. Just try to stay, relatively still and just stare at those 4 vertical dots. It's okay, we're just looking at Jesus. Okay, stop. So close your eyes and tilt your head back. Still there?
What if you did it?
I have a ton more.
What if you did it? Like I've done this at home before, and I feel never.
It's never happened? Yeah, you can try different techniques. Again, not all of us, our brains are slightly different from each other, and so certain illusions we're more susceptible to than others. And so sometimes these just don't work on everyone. But I have other ones, like I have the guy from Twilight on here, Barack Obama, and Batman, and a whole bunch of other stuff, the American flag. So at the end, if you guys want to play more with those after images, but you're welcome to keep Jesus, and I'll keep these. Let's look at some other ones. Oh, do you mind turning the light down just a little bit? Okay, that'll work, I guess. Scintillating illusions. These are illusions where you guys are going to see some kind of slight movement or motion. This is a classic one called the Herman grid. It's nothing more than a white background with black squares, but you'll probably see gray flashes kind of, flashing out at you at the point where the squares meet. And it has to do with how the little cells in the eye respond to white and dark, and some stay longer with it than others, and so you get the illusion of movement. There's another one there. It should look like it's sort of scintillating, like twinkling. All those little spots there. There's nothing more than just white spots. Another example, how many yellow squares or yellow circles do you have? You're probably seeing some of them flash and getting darker. Another one. And some of these work better close up, so you may or may not be getting the effect from the distance. Who needs drugs, right? I want to have a party someday that has nothing but illusions. They're a lot cheaper. Okay, illusions based on contrast. Your brain compares information to everything else that's around it. So this is an example here with a horizontal bar. It's all the same value, but it's probably going to appear to you like it's lighter and getting darker as you move from left to right. And that's because your brain is comparing that against what's behind it. So if it's against something dark, the brain's going to think it's lighter. If it's by something light, the brain will think it's darker. So I know some of these are kind of hard to believe, but you've got that little blue sort of bat or whatever. It's exactly the same color or value in both of these, and yet your brain will probably think the blue to the right is darker than the one to the left. Some of these are quite dramatic, like this one here. The brown cube, brown square in the center at the top is exactly the same color as this one. Most of you will think it's darker at the top. So again, it's because of what your brain is comparing it to. Is it being contrasted with something light or contrasted with something dark? The brain's using all that information. Same example here with those three squares. The one at the bottom will tend to look lighter to people, even though they're all the same value. Same idea here with little circles. So the circles are all the same value, but you might see some of those little circles as being lighter and some of them darker and some in the middle. But if you fixate on any one particular one, you can usually tell. Okay, the cubes at the top there, that top line, do they look like they're all about the same color to you guys? Okay, so some yes, some no. They're actually quite different from each other. The cubes on the upper right are actually green, and the ones on the upper left are actually that pink color. And this shows it a little bit more dramatically. You can see how different they are. But again, the brain is using the information of what's behind it to make those decisions. Illusions based on binocular disparity. At the very end, if we have a few extra minutes, I brought a whole bunch of illusions you can do at the tables. These are ones that would have to be done up close. They don't work well on a screen. But these are illusions that are just based on the fact that our eyes see the world a couple inches apart. And in the process of merging those images together, we can create optical illusions. And this is what's behind something like a 3D movie. When you go to a 3D movie and wear the glasses, so you're getting that sort of illusion of things popping out at you. And also it's the science behind all these stereograms, which I have a bunch of those with me as well. These images you can stare at and a three-dimensional image will pop out. Okay, so those are sort of the illusions that involve a little bit more of the mechanics of the eye. These cognitive illusions happen when we kind of misinterpret some of our rules that the brain uses. So we'll look at some of those. This is something called an impossible figure. And this is where your brain is trying to use all of its laws and rules and principles. It's filling in the blanks. It's trying to get things together. But if I ask you how many legs the elephant has, it starts to get a little bit strange. Another example here. And this is another one of those that doesn't work across all cultures as well. So there are certain cultures that have no difficulty. They see this as a two-dimensional image. In Western cultures, we tend to see this as three-dimensional, and that's where we get into trouble, where the things don't exactly work. The Necker cube, another one as well, violates everything the brain is expecting. So that line, we're assuming should be behind the other one, so it gets a little bit